Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. And everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for today's show because, well, we have a great one for you. We have none other than Calcopia's own Nathan Evans, and he is managing editor over there. And if you are completely in the dark, we'll get to that. But yeah, it's a great place to find a beautiful mix of game reviews, games that I have seen honestly such few reviews for, and just good all-around journalism for movies, books, a little bit of everything, and then of course they have podcasts as well, a little bit of everything there for you. So calcopia.com, we'll have a link in the show notes, and the show notes are available at computeramerica.com. There you'll find everything that we talk about today. We have a number of articles kind of lined up. We're going to do just kind of current events, go over today's headlines. It's always a great way to lead into a nice relaxing weekend. Just get caught up on the news so that you can come out on the other side well informed. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump right into it and bring on our guest, longtime contributor and of course friend of the show, Nathan Evans. Nathan, how you been?
Hey Ben, I just want to say one thing I love about the show is the comforting feeling I get whenever I hear your voiceover of the announcer going, "It's Computer America, the nation's longest running on computers." It's like when I listen to a book on Audible, and it doesn't matter how new the book is. At the end, there's always that stinger where the guy goes, "Audible hopes you've enjoyed this program." It's like it's comforting, it's like coming home. So never get rid of it.
I was just actually thinking about redoing that because we got that recorded for us about 4 or 5 years ago. But I also was trying to make sure that the script for that, when we handed it over to the gentleman to record that, was general enough that I didn't really have to replace it because it's, all the information is still the same. So I don't have to get rid of it, but I was just thinking, I was like, that's getting a little long in the tooth. So it's interesting to hear you say that.
It's that kind of stuff means a lot to people, and it's like on one hand you want to modernize, you want this, you want that reflecting, but I always tell people when they do like character creation or they do branding, like think of The Simpsons and think of Poochie, right? Think of Poochie. Like, do you know Poochie from The Simpsons?
That's not saying as a little helper. Who's Poochie?
Okay, Poochie is a satirical fake character that The Simpsons made, right? That was mocking. It was mocking it was mocking the idea that a show needs to be modernized with a cool character. He's a radical thing, and it's become famous. And so within the scope of the show, the fake show they were made, it was a Itchy and Scratchy character, and they're going to introduce Poochie to make Itchy and Scratchy relevant again by appealing to the cool kids. And he was such an abomination, they killed him off. And it's funny. So Poochie is shorthand for failed, out of touch attempt to make something cool.
Gotcha.
And we can get into that later because I know we're going to be talking about a certain, let's just say, mustached mascot at the end of the show, about how cool is actually the opposite of cool. So
yes,
but yeah. So your opening promo is cool.
Yeah, that reference would have landed a little bit better if if you'd gone with like the Futurama when they replaced the old chef with Elzar on his cooking show, and just to make it new and punchy and pizzazzy. But yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So, yeah, trust me, Poochie is it, man. Poochie is so lame and stupid that it's forever. So
absolutely. So with all that being said, you can see up there on the screen, we have Calcopia. And before we get started, on just general news, people go there, and why don't you tell the nice folks, if this is their first time hearing about Calcopia, what they can find there?
You want to do me a favor before I say that?
Sure.
Right there. I want you to. Okay, good. Right there. Click on the third from the left, the Pokemon thing.
The Calcopia?
So, yes. Think about it. What does that sound like to you? Say that again.
Calcopia, and this is just the way I have assumed.
Sounds like.
I don't even know.
Sounds
Calcopia?
like. Yeah. So I had to convince people that Calcopia was not some sort of erectile dysfunction drug, or because it sounded like some. And then all of a sudden, Pokemon comes out, and everyone's like, "Oh, Pokopia!" It's like exactly. Opia is fun. It's
Opia
a fun suffix.
Is a nice, round, fun-sounding word. Yes.
Exactly. And so there you go. So I promise you, it had nothing to do with it. We launched before they did. This is just one of those spontaneous generation of different ideas. Like what do they call it in science? Like the invention of the cotton gin, the invention of the light bulb. It
was going to happen in multiple places at the same time independently. Yes.
Exactly. Two big franchises like Calcopia and Pokemon, world-shuttering things.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. Nintendo, please don't sue us. You sue everybody. Do not sue me, please. I can't do it. You sue everybody. They do. They sue everybody.
They're very protective of what little they've developed. Yes.
Yes, they are very, very protective.
But yeah. Anyway, so what will they find there other than potentially trademarked name schemes?
Potentially legally distinctive trademark things.
There you go.
No, as you can see, movie reviews, game reviews, book reviews, increasingly original stuff. I got a bunch of more. We actually have our first original piece. If you want to click on originals, friend of your show, Corey Galahar, is writing his first book. Did you know this? And we actually put a sample on the site, and I got a few more. I did not know
he was getting into writing.
I know, it's crazy, but you can read part of it right now if you click on originals. We got some more short stories.
I'm already floundering. Oh, originals here at the end. There we go. Right after podcast. Very cool. It is flushing out.
It is flushing out. It has one. It has one. Well, see, you say flushing. That's like saying champing at the bit versus chomping at the bit.
Yes.
The correct term is champing at the bit, but there's no such thing as champing. It's chomping because it's literally chomping. But everyone insists. So when you hear people correct you and they say champing at the bit, that person has never seen a horse in their life. They're just being grammatically obtuse.
They've seen a dictionary, not a horse.
Exactly. It's like people who correct you when you say Neanderthal versus Neanderthal.
Yes.
Like, oh, you mean Neanderthal? Yes. No, I meant Neanderthal because THAL is thal, not
the
call.
One that always gets me on that is Hawaii versus Hawaii. And I'm like, well, I'm not on Hawaii, so I'm going to say Hawaii. So
there's a video game website, a YouTube channel that has been actually, let's just say, excoriated in the media in the last couple of weeks thanks to a certain botched rollout of NVIDIA's DLSS5. Won't say that would give them any promotion, but they're a bunch of Europeans, Americans that live in Europe, and they love to pronounce things correctly. And when I say that, it means they pronounce things correctly in a world that does not. It's like the people who say anime instead of anime.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to correct the mispronunciation. And so like whenever this one editor says Wolfenstein, he always insists on Wolfenstein,
Wolfenstein, yeah, the real German one. Yeah.
We kind of make fun of that in enunciation with journalism. It's the white as mayonnaise weatherman, and they always pronounce it Nicaragua instead of they'll sound like me. They'll be like, the weather today over in South America in Nicaragua.
Yes.
It's like they don't speak the language, but they speak accent. So their accent is on point, but the rest of the thing, it just doesn't match.
Yeah, it comes off as very jarring, not natural. But hey,
yeah. So anyway, you'll find all of that and more at Calcopia, and it's growing. Like I said, what are we at now? 4 months, 4 or 5 months.
Time
it's
flies.
Still pretty new. The baby's still in that.
It's going through its growth spurts. It's getting its new categories. It's really getting all of its digits. It's good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's doing its thing. It's populating, and for those who don't get the joke, it is the vestigial spinoff of our old site PopZara. Which went into hibernation, then pupated into this thing. And so it's been good. It's been good. I will say there's a lot wrong with it that you can't see, but I can see. So we're working on revisions. We're going to be having a meeting with the developers to say, hey, what doesn't work, what works, and just how it goes, just to do that thing, to make the magic happen. And so
absolutely,
that's fun. That's my favorite part, by the way.
The really just buttoning it up. But no, it looks good, everyone out there. And once again, Calcopia, if you want to go check that out, but also link over at Computer America. So with all that being said, let's wrap that back around to current events and just kind of headlines of the day. You sent over a number of stories. I sent back a couple of stories. Hopefully you got those. And yeah, I thought we'd just have a nice little wrap up of what's happening in the day and really in the week, and talk about some stuff. The big one of the day, though, that one just coming out today, as if the day could not get worse if you looked at any other mainstream story. Well, Sony, we're going to start off there with PlayStation 5. And yeah, I honestly, I did not see this coming, because as traditionally, as consoles get older and older, the prices go down. So let's say if something, let's say back in the day, if a console launches at 500, a year and a half later, it would, famously drop to 400. And then a year after that, it will go down to 300. And then after that, you start seeing all the deals, and then it would get replaced by a new console, and it would go down to like $200 or whatever. Yeah. And then the new console would sell at the same time. Nathan, we're looking at the PlayStation 5, which I want to say the PlayStation 5 came out 3-4 years ago, something like that. Or even longer.
2020.
Yeah, 2020. So 6 years. Wow. Where does the time go? But yeah, we're 6 years into the cycle, and they have the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation Digital Edition, which I think just excludes the CD tray. And then they have the Pro, which has all the bells and whistles and improved graphics.
No, it doesn't. It's actually missing the Blu-ray drive. You have to add that separately.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, so the PlayStation 5 Pro, though, has increased hardware and all that good stuff. Anyways, Nathan, it's going up. What the heck?
Okay, I have words to say, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to sound like a negative Nancy here. So if anybody doesn't like the sound of my voice or doesn't want to hear negativity, go listen to another show. But keep this running so Ben still gets the ad revenue. No, but I'll say this. There's a couple things. Let's just say this. This reminds me of my second favorite TV commercial of all time. My favorite commercial is for some job placement, which we'll get into. But my second commercial is for a cable company or satellite dish. And it came out maybe 10, 15 years ago, but I love it. It's an evergreen, right? It's for a cable company or satellite. One of the two. I don't remember. The business is probably out of business. And it was a board meeting at the cable company. And a bunch of people were like, it's for Dish Network, I think. And they say, we're getting our shirt handed to us. What are we going to do? He's like, well, we can't make the service better, but we can improve the price. We can make it more. And I just remember that we can improve the price. We can make it more. And it was meant to be insulting, but Sony is doing that. This is not the first time. This is the second time that they've raised the price of the PlayStation. And the tech industry is so, and here I go, here's the political part, so spoiler warning, is so up their own patooties with anti-Trump hatred, they don't understand how economics works. And so when the PlayStation 5 increased price, like, see, this is your tariffs, has nothing to do with tariffs, It has everything to do with the fact that the industry is going through this tsunami-like regression where all these component and extra pieces are being sort of siphoned off.
Yeah, and to even make that point, the article here that we'll again have a link to, but right in the middle shows all the price increases, and all this stuff is made in, I want to say PlayStation's made in South Korea, but it maybe in Japan, probably Japan. Now that I'm thinking about it, or just Southeast Asia. Anyways, so it's all made over there and then shipped all over the world, and to further prove the point, it's not tariffs. U.S., UK, Europe, Japan, all I'm sure every other market, they're all getting price increases. So it's not just US, it's everyone.
So here's the second part. You brought up like a history of the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to basically be the cycle of life. Thing comes out moderately priced. That's what a console is. A console is a moderately moderately priced piece of electronic equipment that has a finite lifespan. It's designed to last about 5-6 years, in theory, for developers. It's not meant for you and me. It's meant for developers to play with. Of course, it'll last longer, but that's the gestation period of one of these things. So the way most things go, this reminds me of the 1993. Okay, 1993, when the big hitters were Sega and Nintendo. And Nintendo and Sega took very different paths. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, because these companies are taking very different paths. So Nintendo said, you know what? We were supposed to have this CD-ROM attachment for the Super Nintendo. We're going to have CD-ROMs. They took a look at what Sega did with the Sega CD. They took a look at the TurboGrafx. They took a look at 3DO. They took a look at Philips. They took a look at Amiga 32, and they say, nope, not going to work. So they stuck with aging 16-bit technology. They stuck with it. They revised the hardware. They found ways to make the games better by adding chips like Super FX chips and add-on chips. And they increased the lifespan of the Super Nintendo by about 3 years, which was important, which is very important, because that's not what Sega did. Sega said, we're going to have a CD. Oh, it didn't work. We're going to have a 32X. Didn't work. We're going to have this. Didn't work. We're going to add this. It didn't work. And what happened is you had this Frankenstein monster of like 15 different attachments. And that's what killed the momentum for Sega. And that's what helped Nintendo. Nintendo got over the upgrade path, and they released a new console, the Nintendo 64. Yep. Sega, on the other hand, became discombobulated. They released a Sega Saturn, didn't sell very well. They eventually released the Sega Dreamcast with help from Microsoft. And that was it. It was over. And Nintendo they took a stand and they stood their ground. And the reason the PlayStation is going up in price is because whoever's running Sony's hardware division, which I believe is a bunch of non-console people, I think it's Mark Cerny or something, they don't understand is that you can't sell the same chips and silicon for 6 years. That's not how it works. You see, you need to take advantage of the fact that there are advances in productions. You need to take advantage of the fact there's different micro productions. Sony actually released a different PlayStation 5 3 years ago, the PS5 Slim, which looks exactly like the old PS5, but it wasn't cheaper. Yeah. See, you look at the history of all these game consoles, they have revision consoles, which are smaller, more economical. They have better manufacturing, and that's how you decrease price. You use cheaper manufacturing, use less expensive materials, or you recycle materials in a way. Sony hasn't done that. Sony hasn't done that. Microsoft didn't do it.
It's always the playbook that technology has available to it, is that you produce something, and after 4, 5, 6 years, you've recouped your research costs, you've recouped your setting up your production line, and you recoup your whole production entire chain. And those efficiencies that are supposed to come with time, those get baked into the price of the hardware, where you're not having to, which is why iPhone, even though it's expensive, don't get me wrong, the iPhone maintains its kind of price points year over year. It may go up $100, and I think it may go down $100 here and there, but they're able to maintain that because they have everything so streamlined. They're able to hit those price points. But PlayStation's like, we're going to raise it.
No, Sony did the opposite. They did the Poochie. They said, instead of making a smaller, more economical PlayStation 5, we're going to slightly increase the power of it, increase the price, and make a PlayStation 5 Pro. So instead of making more economical and expanding the lifespan of the PlayStation 5, they created what's called a hybrid Band-Aid console, where you had to rebuy the PlayStation 5 at a $200 fee, right? The PlayStation 5 Pro.
I don't know if you can get people who bought into PlayStation 5, 6 years ago. I don't know if you can get them to buy a new one. I don't know.
That's what they did. They did that with the PlayStation 4 Pro, and Microsoft tried to do that with the Xbox Series. I'm sorry, the Xbox One X. Those didn't work either. The problem is they are not upgradable. They are supposed to be finite. And the reason you do this, right? The reason you do this is for developers, because developers need time to evolve, and they need time to learn the operating environment. Mm-hmm. So by the time the console's at its lifespan, by the time it's over, they're ready to move on to the next hardware. But if you keep expanding it, it's kind of like the falsity of a PC. Like, oh, you can upgrade your PC, so you have someone, okay, get a motherboard, get a hard drive, whatever. But over time, you got to replace components. But the problem is, in order for your PC to run really well, you can't just buy like new RAM because it's not compatible, or a new hard drive or new thing, because there's always going to be a bottleneck, right? Holding you back.
As soon as you find that one piece that doesn't work with your motherboard, you're like, okay, I got to replace the motherboard,
exactly.
And then everything else just falls like dominoes.
I had a friend who upgraded his PC and everything, and he got like I forget, like 3040 card or whatever, 32 gigs of RAM, and he's like, oh, I can't get my frame rates to go up, I can't get my resolution, and I didn't even ask the basic question. Turns out he was using like an old CRT monitor, and it's just like, dude, no, like, you don't get it. Like, it doesn't work like that. I mean, people like you and I were talking about, people don't know how to do computers, right? And so the problem is that what Sony should have done is they should have made a legitimately cheaper PlayStation 5. Like, if PlayStation 5 was $300, but if it was half the size, you expand the user base, right? You see, if you had a PlayStation 5 in 2020 and you bought a PlayStation 5 Pro in 2025, you would not be helping Sony, because they're not making any money. It's a loss leader, so they're not going to make any money off the hardware.
Right.
And you're not expanding the user base, so you are not expanding their pool of available users. You have to expand it. And by the way, we're going to talk about this later, but I can give you a perfect example of a company that has done this marvelously, like a textbook case of perfection, and that is Apple. And we're going to talk about the MacBook Neo. So when everybody else is coming out with more expensive hardware, higher price, Apple comes out with a less priced hardware. And because how do they do that? Exactly what I said. They said, what chips do we have laying around? Oh, we have these A18 chips. Let's make a laptop out of it. Let's not increase the price. Now, if you want to buy a more expensive Mac, that's there too. That's what Sony missed the boat on.
Right.
And they're going to be thrashed over this, as they should be.
And yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And even if they don't, from existing customers or future customers or what have you, like, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that, we had a PlayStation 4, did not upgrade to the PlayStation 5 just because we're like, PlayStation 4 is still pretty good. And now it's gotten to the point where so many years down the line, I'm like, I don't want to buy into the PlayStation 5 because I feel like there should be, and I don't know if there is, I've heard no timeline on it, there should be a PlayStation 6 about now. And, even though they're coming out with, not even coming out, they're just raising prices, it kind of puts into question in my head. I'm like, well, is PlayStation 6 around the corner, or are they sticking with this for years to come?
It is, but the problem is, again, they screwed the upgrade cycle up. Again, if you band-aid old hardware, if you band-aid it, then what's happening is on one hand, you're asking your consumers to double dip instead of saving up. So the initial investment is depreciated. Like, instead of buying a console and making it last 5-6 years, you're now asking them to buy double. The other problem is software. If your platform can sustain a viable library of must-have titles. This is what a console is. It's not a PC. This is a console. You're asking customers to say, buy a PlayStation. Here are some experiences you can only get on PlayStation, right? Sony kind of broke that trust. They released a lot of their games on the PC. Yeah. And they've since rescinded that. Now they said, oops, we made a mistake. We're not going to do that anymore. So again, you're creating this confusion in the market. And again, I'll give you another example of a company that has done this marvelously, and that's Nintendo. Nintendo had an aging toaster of a console for 8 years with the Switch. They resisted all efforts to improve the technology. Maybe they made the screen better, or maybe they made it portable.
Yeah, they had like an OLED, but by and large, it was the same thing, just
same hardware,
easier on the eyes.
So when the Switch 2 comes out, it's got the best in class backwards compatibility I've ever seen. The price is relatively cheaper than the competition, although it's slightly raised. But it's just somebody pointed out that the Switch 2 hardware already has more exclusive software than the PlayStation and Xbox together. Like, you need to support your console. It is not a PC. You need to give me a reason to buy this thing. And if your reason is, well, there's right now, I mean, I don't know if I could go buy a gaming PC that's as good as a PlayStation what the prices are, but the fact is that the PlayStation, it's a great console. It's ugly, but it's a great console. It's got really good software on it. I like it, but I'm not going to go buy another one right now. I wouldn't recommend it. It's too expensive. And the problem is, what if you buy a nice,
I think what they did, like you said at the beginning, was they've improved the price, and that's really
they improved the price for them. But it it damages the brand. It damages the brand in a way that may not recover, because this is what Sega did. Now, by the way, just so we're clear, I'm not saying they're in a position they're going to go away, but Microsoft has effectively been phased out of the market. There is no Xbox loyalty anymore. That is gone. That's like finding out Teacher of the Year diddled his students. It's gone. You can't get that back. And so the PlayStation still has some cachet. There is some love for the brand. And the PlayStation 5, even with all its troubles, sold pretty well. It sold about 85, 89 million, give or take, which is a lot for a console. But for PlayStation standards, it's less than 60% of what they normally sell. It's actually less than the PlayStation 3, which was the previously least selling PlayStation. So yeah, and it's way more expensive. And Sony has bragged like, oh, we make more money in this generation. No, you make money with games as service. Yeah, that's like saying a casino makes more money than a Blockbuster. Like, and so it doesn't work. So
and again, digging into the article, they say global macroeconomic pressures, which just means we can probably thank AI with the RAM prices and chip prices and storage and memory prices, all of that probably factoring into it is more expensive to make these things, even with all the efficiencies.
I will say this though, I don't think there's been any real efforts to be efficiently manufacturing on this. I think what they should have been focusing on, this is my opinion. Sony, call me, we'll talk. But they should have focused on making more efficiently made hardware. There's ways to do this. Like Sony just gave up their TV market to TCL. You know what I mean? Like they've abandoned everything else. Like they're running out of things to make. Right. They're running out of things to cut. Yeah. Yeah. But the PlayStation's it for Sony. This is all they have. Like the company is in recession right now. And the problem is, and this is my last thought on this, is that they're not a gaming company. They're an electronic company. But unlike Microsoft can waste billions of dollars on Xbox. They won't blink an eye because they have Azure, and they have Windows, and they have Office. Sony doesn't have that. Like they have Columbia Pictures, but even that is recessed. Like they can't rely on gaming. They can't do it. They need to have another source of revenue. Right. So if they kind of screw the pooch, then I don't know. I would have done it differently. I don't think this helps them at all. I think this is going to be very bad for them.
But like you also said, this is not predicting that they're leaving. It's just, another step down the road that, hey, if they were going to, potentially find themselves in a really, really bad position, this is probably one of those steps that they would have to take to get there. So, yeah, we'll see.
I would say this though, Ben, and this is what I always tell people. You don't make money on gaming based on hardware. You don't do it on power. You do it on software. The greatest comeback story in the history of electronics, the greatest comeback story in the history of gaming happened in 1996, right? Mm-hmm. 1996. One of the biggest game franchises of all time came out on hardware that was already by that time ancient and obsolete. That was Pokemon. Pokemon was released on the Game Boy. The Game Boy had come out in 1989. It had already been replaced with better hardware. And it revived that. It completely regenerated entire hardware. That's all you need. You just need software. It doesn't matter. Sony could have 8 gigaflop, whatever. It doesn't matter. If the games aren't there, no one gives a shit. You need to have something to play. If you don't have that, then it's just a box. The history of video games is littered with a graveyard of really nice boxes. So you need to get software. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. Software is all that matters.
Yep, and that and price, and that leads me to transition to our next.
Okay.
Yeah, and that leads me to price. For sure. That leads me to transition to our second story, which is another price increase, and then we'll talk a little bit about a price decrease after the story. Yeah. But this one is about Netflix. I'm sure this one made all the headlines because I think people are very price sensitive when it comes to not just streaming services but subscription services. I think a lot of people are very tired of the subscription model. There's even services out there that will look through your bank transactions and say, "Oh, you are signed up to these subscription services." Yeah, I'm sure everyone has seen those ads. But yeah, it's Netflix doing what McDonald's was doing like 2 years ago, and McDonald's said, "We're raising prices because we can. Like, we think that our customer base can absorb this. We won't lose many customers, so we're going to increase because we can, not for any other reason than, hey, well, we're a business and we need to make more profits.
Well,
yeah.
Well, the thing about Netflix is interesting because Netflix started off, as a low price streaming service. They created the market basically back in 2008, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a game console, by the way. Xbox actually was the first streamer. Go figure. But anyway, what's happening now is kind of like what you saw happen with Fortnite a couple days ago, where Epic in your state announced they were getting rid of all these really talented people because they said Fortnite just was not bringing in the profits it was. But while they were laying off people, they were showing, but here's new skins, here's new skins, here's new skins. You're like, wow, there's going to be a lot more people going to lose their jobs. The fact of the matter is that, again, it's the same thing as manufacturing. If you have Netflix doesn't just say, okay, we're going to make these here's our budget, we're going to make these shows. Netflix is investing money in traditionally non-content related things. They're doing live shows. They're doing interactive things. They're testing different markets.
They tested some like live, like, late night talk show style things. They tested some sports. They tested they're doing different stuff.
Yeah, they're not taking that money from the pot they already have. They're passing on the expense to the consumer under the impression, and by the way, so far they've been kind of right. Like, you and I have talked about this years ago about Disney Plus, and everyone said, and I told you, go back and listen to that show, and I was curmudgeon-y back then. They said Disney Plus is going to become the most popular because they have Disney, and Disney's going to leverage that. That's what people were saying at the time. And I said, that doesn't mean shit. Like, that's what Microsoft said when their App Store was going to beat Apple, or their tablet was going to beat the iPad. Oh, but their Windows, of course they're going to have the apps. No, it's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens is the platform dictates the apps. The apps don't dictate the platform. You can't buy users. Netflix did it honestly. I may not like the service anymore, but let's be honest. They put in the work. They created the market for it. They invested in their own programming. They've done very well with it, I would say. Like, they're the only streaming service that has brands. Like, Paramount, God bless them. Yeah,
Paramount. There are so many streaming services nowadays, but really every one of them, and I would say even Disney to an extent, they're all looking for who's going to buy us so we no longer have to be in the streaming service. Like, are we going to merge with Disney? Are we going to merge with Hulu? Are we going to merge with Fox? Like all these different services that have merged or are looking to merge, it seems like all of them are on the cusp of, like, okay, not profitable, let's start looking for a seller or a buyer or something like that. And then Netflix is just there in the corner, just like, hey, we're holding it down. Our business model was what it is, and it is what it was. They're just chugging along.
Netflix does not want to license content anymore. That they want out of that business. They want to own content. They are now in the acquisition phase. That was the
smartest thing. Like in the past shows, in 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever it was, they started making these huge investments in new programming that was by and large crap, and we've talked about the quality of stuff on Netflix, but like they have invested, like when you look at the numbers, they out invested studios that were putting out blockbusters. They were out investing TV networks. Like Netflix put their money where it mattered.
If you're CBS or you're ABC, right, you're limited to what you can show because of reality. You can't show 3 shows at one time. You can only show 1 show at a time. Mm-hmm. And if your schedule is littered with crap like NCIS or whatever,
Judge
you can't
Judy,
show something else. Yeah, Judge Judy. You have to pick or choose. Netflix can show 1 billion shows at the exact same time, and they can let people choose. So that's why they don't care about. That's why ratings don't work with Netflix, because we don't live in that world of water cooler conversations anymore. We have. Someone can watch Stranger Things. Someone can watch the serial killer of the show month, or the new Ryan Murphy thing, or they can watch this or that, or crap this or crap that. It doesn't matter. Maybe you're watching the new Primal show from, Gendy Tartakovsky, or maybe you're watching something else. But you can watch all these things concurrently. Like 5 people in your house can watch them all. So the ratings don't matter because it doesn't matter because they have your subscription money. Once they have your subscription money, that's The only thing that matters. And you know who they modeled this after? People don't talk about this because they don't teach this in school. They modeled this after the old Hollywood system that kind of faded away in the 60s, where you had like 3 or 4 Hollywood studios. You had Warner Brothers, you had RKO Records, you had, what's the other one? Paramount. And they ran a studio. And they owned the actors, they owned the directors, and they would just say, okay, we're going to make this project today. Here's the actor, here's the actor. That's why you hear people say, when they talk about it, they say, oh, I'm going to loan them out to this studio, loan them out. Because you had a contract and you had a guaranteed salary. Doesn't matter if you made 1 movie or 20 movies, that was your salary. And here's the director, they don't get to choose. And it worked really well for a long time. Hollywood made great movies and it was really efficient. And they didn't have to worry about box office because it didn't matter, because they owned the movie theaters.
They owned the theaters,
until the Supreme Court knocked it down. But what happened is that ended in the 60s with the advent of what they call New Hollywood, right? But that's what Netflix has created. Like, you know who the most profitable movie star in the world is because of Netflix? Mark Wahlberg.
I was going to say Adam Sandler.
And Adam Sandler and Mark Wahlberg are the 2 most successful, and they only almost exclusively work for Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. It's because they have really good deals. And they make movies that no one's ever heard of, like The Family Plan 2. I didn't even know that movie existed, but it's there. Somebody's watching it, right? Somebody's watching it. But going back to what I was saying, though, last summer, here's why Netflix works. Last summer, Sony, which usually partners with Netflix, which we can get into later. They have like a quasi relationship with Netflix. Sony said, we have this movie. We don't know what to do with it. We don't really want to put it in theaters. Because the last movie we made didn't do, like the Turtle movie, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie didn't do very well. So it's from the studio that made Spider-Verse, the cartoon one, very successful. You want it, Netflix? And Netflix is like, we'll take it. So Netflix took the movie and they just went plopped it on the streamer. And it turned out to be probably the most popular movie last year. It was K-pop Demon Hunters. Had no hype at all, had no sizzle, had no nothing. Netflix put it on, it caught fire. And it became the biggest thing Netflix has ever done. I think arguably the biggest thing they've ever done.
Yeah, it was critically and audience-wise just a success, both. Crazy.
But it had no hype, had nothing, had no pre-buzz, zero, zilch, nothing.
but then they put in the earworm songs, and then kids just stopped, couldn't stop listening to it, and then their parents were indoctrinated.
Well, the same thing happened with Disney about 2 years ago with this movie called Encanto. Encanto came out on, didn't do anything in theaters, went to Disney Plus. Again, Disney tried putting out a music video from one of the songs, and nobody caught it. But then it went on Disney Plus, and that one damn song, "We Don't Talk About Bruno" hit, and it's like, duh, you watch this movie, that's the standout. But no one at Disney knew this. No one at Sony said, hey, we have this hit song, because nobody knows how to do it anymore, Ben. Like they have nobody with the talent at these studios to just understand what the market wants, because they're so reliant on algorithms. This new song, this golden song from K-pop, doesn't sound like any of these other Britney Spears or Taylor Swift songs. So it's not going to do well. But when people are sure, wow, something new. And people will gravitate towards that. And God bless Netflix, they're the only ones doing it. They're the only studio that does this.
So I will say, and it's kind of telling, I'm always surprised at just how much influence like advertisers have on these businesses, because again, Netflix built a brand about not having ads, just content. You pay for the subscription and you get it.
Well,
and of course, and a couple of years ago they introduced the ad service. The price increases, just so we've been talking around it, just for everyone out there who didn't know.
Yeah.
Looking at the article here, the ad-supported service, which was $8 a month, is now going to $9 a month. They're only increasing that by $1, which, Nathan, if you read a little bit further in the article, their ad revenue, I want to say they were up like 80% or something like that, or
huge.
50%. Their ad-supported service is bananas. And for a company that had resisted showing ads for so long, it shows that, every other service, if you're paying like, $17, $18, you're now going to be paying $20, $21. Everything else is going up like $2 a piece. But the ad one, they're keeping pretty low. And I think it's because, hey, that seems to be the new cash cow. It's doing so well.
It's funny though. we talked about the price increase and everything. But one of the reasons they get away with this, Ben, is that because there's really no competition. Like you saw, they were the big story with Netflix. They tried to acquire Warner Brothers, and that would have been really interesting. I was actually on board with this because Warner Brothers is a company that's been so mismanaged. It's been so haphazardly run. And it was acquired before by another tech company back in 2000. It was acquired by AOL, right? But you hear the naysayers, oh, the prices are going to go up. They already have been. The content's going to be suffered.
I was actually just thinking, because the prices are going up after that deal fell through. So they're increasing, saying, hey, look at all of our content. We're still such a good value. We're going to increase our prices. If that had went through, I guarantee it would have been much more than $1 or $2. Like that price increase would have been $3, $4, or $5 increase.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think Netflix wanted Warner Brothers. I actually don't think they want it at all. They don't need Batman. They don't need Superman. They don't need that. I think what they did is they played the bluff game. I think they let Paramount eat the cost of this, because there was a trailer that came out the other day for the new Harry Potter series, and I was flabbergasted when I saw how much money Warner Brothers was wasting on that. That show is $100 million an episode with a 7-year buy-in. That's going to be a $5 billion show. Did you see the trailer? It looks like shit. There's no way that's $100 million.
I thought it wasn't
Somebody
bad.
is stealing money.
It looked glitzy. It looked high. It looked glitzy. It looked high production.
$100 million an episode.
It looked like $100 million. And I will say that looked expensive. I don't want to say good, bad, whatever. I think the originals can stand on their own, and a TV show, who knows, a new generation. But yeah, I do think they did play the Paramount deal as a way to weaken their competition. And if that was the goal, to drive the price up, they succeeded.
So we're going to talk about this later in the show, so I don't want to give too much away, but there is another cinematic universe being assembled as we talk. And everyone in Hollywood thinks that this will be the new Marvel. I think you understand what I'm saying.
The poster that was released yesterday, I saw, like when I first saw it, it had like a spoiler thing over it. I'm like, it's a movie poster. They're putting it out there. How much of a spoiler can it be? I was like, my God.
Let's just say they're forming the NCU. Can we say that? The NCU.
the NCU. There you go.
You know who has the rights to that? Netflix.
Game Freak. Yeah, Game Freak.
No, Netflix has the rights to that. The film will go to Netflix.
That's right. Because the Super Mario movie did come out on Netflix.
They already announced all the Nintendo products are coming to Netflix. Legend of Zelda, Mario, everything.
That's huge.
And who the hell knows what they? Yeah. Exactly. They don't need. What do they want? They don't want underperforming Superman or Batman movies. They want what kids actually want. The last Batman movie cinematically made $500 million. The last Mario movie made almost $2 billion, and it made way more on VOD. This movie. We'll talk about the movie later, but it's coming out next week. It's going to make a lot of money. It's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so this is how it's going now.
Let's move the conversation just a little bit and go to and we'll talk about that whole thing later. But we'll move from price increase, price decrease, and let's talk a little bit about
I have one more
Nintendo.
thing to say.
Oh yeah, please.
One more thing about Netflix, and this is really short. For anybody listening, Tubi is free. It doesn't have everything you want. Right? But it has a lot more than you think, and you will never watch it all. So if you're really upset with Netflix, just cancel it for a while. They're not going to punish you if you cancel it. They're not going to forbid you from ever coming back. Cancel it for a couple months. Download Tubi on your Apple TV or your phone, and try giving Tubi a chance. You know how much money you'll save? What's the price increase? $25? You'll save $25 a month.
I do think that these companies are really hurting their customers by not having any kind of grandfathering, plans. Everyone gets an increase. Mm-hmm. There's no reward for loyalty, and like you said, there's no punishment for canceling.
You get punishment for loyalty. You get punished for loyalty.
Yes. So just cancel, and you'll come back to the exact same price. There's no reason not to cancel for a little bit.
Netflix will go, we don't need you. That's fine. They don't need you. Let them get someone else. Go to Tubi. Go to Pluto.
And Roku.
Not Pluto's pretty. Yeah, Roku. There's a bunch of free stuff out there. Oh, Pluto. Plex has a free tier too. There's so much stuff. There's so much.
They should definitely go out. And by the way, I'm about to show an article. If you don't want to spoil, if you don't want spoiler, don't read the right side of the screen. But anyways, Nintendo. This is the physical and digital Switch 2 games now will have 2 different price points, and that goes to show that, Nathan, like, everyone out there, and I'm thinking Call of Duty, kind of off the top of my head, you can buy these things, and you let's be honest, you buy like the physical thing, and it just has like a QR code that takes you to the store. Digital sales have long eclipsed physical sales, but some people are diehard.
Here's the thing, though. What you just described is considered a physical sale, not considered digital. So if you there's a game coming out on PlayStation 5 next month. You've heard it. We talked about it. Starfield. Remember? Mm-hmm. Starfield was exclusive to Xbox and PC. It's coming to PlayStation. So if you bought Starfield for the Xbox, you physically bought a box. You brought the box home. You opened the box, and inside was a number. There was no disc. Remember we talked about that story where the guy stole.
That is goofy.
He stole 3,000 copies of Starfield and he couldn't resell them. But that's how that's how Microsoft and Sony work. You buy a physical copy, and there's a reason. It sounds goofy, but that's for the retailer's benefit. That's for retail. But it's the same price. It was $69, whatever it was. It was the same price for digital as it was for the empty box. What Nintendo's doing, what you're getting at, is different. They are now going to lower the price, not raise the price. They're going to lower the price of digital games by $10. So you can buy the digital copy, which you can buy on Amazon too, by the way. Can't do that with Sony, or you can physically buy the physical game and you'll pay the extra $10. But there is a price difference, and that is pretty unique because that's not usually how it is.
And like you said, that was for the retailer's benefit. By them doing this, I mean, Nintendo. I think it's pretty safe to say, based on all the conversations that we've had with you, what Nintendo doesn't exactly drive the market. Nintendo's not an industry leader. They're like an industry. They do their own thing.
They do lead through hardware innovation typically.
Yeah.
But as far as pricing, I think it was no.
So I'm wondering, like, they're doing this, and I think Nintendo doing this will not be indicative of what PlayStation and Microsoft and what they do, but to a consumer, at least from my consumer brain, this just makes sense. Like, tying the two together, physical should be a premium. There's a lot of transportation, gas, marketing, production, all that stuff. Digital is digital. That should be cheaper. At least that's how it feels to a consumer brain.
Well, they also did something very unique with the Switch 2 when it launched. Was they gave out the game codes cards, which were controversial, but I actually thought they were pretty cool. Where you actually, you got a physical game, you paid the physical price, but you got a card that didn't have any game on it. It just had a key code. Mm-hmm. So you take the cartridge out. You've seen how itty bitty Switch games are.
Yeah.
You put it in your Switch, and what it would do is it would trigger a download to your Switch console. Now the caveat was the big thing is that when you were done with it, you could take the plastic card out and resell it. So it wasn't tied to your account like the way a code was, and that's pretty good. And there's 2 reasons they did that. 2 big reasons. One, Switch games are expensive. Like the cartridge could be pricey. And if you're an independent developer, you have to absorb the cost. That's part of the licensing fee. And it's like $10, $15, $20 a cartridge. So if you sell $1 million worth of game, you're going to be spending $250,000 just for cartridge costs, plus the 30% Nintendo takes. So you make way more money with digital because you can bypass that $250,000. So what Nintendo did by doing that, that decreased the upfront production cost from like $25 to like $5. Because you're actually not selling ROMs. You're selling just a code. Yeah. Plus, there's the added benefit that it's not maybe on the cartridge, but you're no longer tying the license to your hardware in a way that it was before. So I thought that was very pro-consumer. And, some people disagree, but you have to understand, Ben, like, there is no such thing as physical media anymore. Like, even if you buy a physical game, like you said, the Starfield or whatever, it's erased as soon as you buy it with updates. It just doesn't exist anymore. So, but good on Nintendo for this.
Truly no game is ever released, in a physical sense that isn't just immediately updated, like you said. So, all games are already digital. This is just making it easier.
Yeah, it's the way it is. It's the way it is.
The only one that I could see really hating this would be, like you said way at the beginning, retailers, and namely GameStop is the main one. I'm sure Walmart makes a lot of game sales, and Best Buy, but retailers. But I think they've all pretty much transitioned to the fact that digital sales account for, like, I could make up a number and say 80%. I don't think I'd be far off. Most people do digital. That's just
but retail makes way more money. Like, retail is the heartblood of this. Like, it creates, it's like a movie theater. It creates the cultural touchstone, the watershed moment, like the water cooler moment, like we said, where you can easily go into a store, you buy this, and if you go to a video game section, you'll notice it's not just the games. There's all these accessories, there's controllers, peripherals, there's game cards you can buy, coupons. Like, if that went away, there would be no industry. Like, it's so important to everything else. It's the lifeblood.
There's low key gambling now that everyone is gambling on Pokemon card packs. Yeah.
Yes, you know what? Those people should be arrested. Like, the people that go and hoard the cards for the poor kids. Like, if you're PSA, by the way, if you're like over 35 years old and you're hoarding Pokemon cards at Target, you need to go to jail. You need some time away from society to think about.
I have a couple of friends I went to high school with that do show off their baseball card and Pokemon card collections that they trade and sell, and they're like, "Oh, this one's worth $35. This one's worth $85. This one's worth $1,200." Like,
is it worth your dignity,
just
though?
Straight gambling.
No, but but these people, they go to the stores and they hoard. They take away from the little kids.
Yes.
Your time. Look, middle-aged gamers, your time is past. You're done. You need to go away. You need to let the kids have. This is their world now. This is their world, and you don't need to be gaming with a 5-year-old. That needs to stop. you need to stop that. But you're right.
Everything in moderation. Just because you have the disposable income doesn't mean that you should completely hoard all those things. So, but hey, we're getting into gambling. So let's transition this, because
Which, by the way, we didn't. Real quick though, we didn't talk about it, and frankly, there's no time to talk about it. But you saw what's happening with Valve. They're being sued by some of the attorney generals because they're claiming that Valve is basically a gambling, conduit. This was last week.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's been so many twists and turns in that I don't know where they're at with this. I agree 100%. But like, what are they finally going to do about
it? We can talk about why they're doing it later, but that's a bigger conversation. So.
Yeah, maybe next time that we talk about that, there'll be more, more to do. So I found this article February 25th, and New York is looking to sue them. Yeah, I mean, gambling skins, all that kind of thing. That is as unregulated and gambled on as like cryptocurrency and prediction markets.
A couple years ago, right, like in 2022, I actually interviewed on Popsara. I interviewed the director of this movie about pinball, and the movie's great. I recommend it. I'll get you the name of the movie later. But it was about when pinball was made illegal in New York because they considered pinball a gambling apparatus. And they had this guy go in and he had to prove that pinball was not gambling.
I remember that, and he had to prove it was like skill based. Yeah,
it was skill based, and because mostly because there's no payout. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's how I think New York is just being a little pompous with, I get why they're trying to do it politically, but you have to prove that Valve pays out, and they don't. So you have to prove that somehow there's a financial incentive for Valve to do this. So we'll
they sell the crates,
Walmart sells them too. Does that mean Walmart's gambling?
Yes.
It's a crazy
markets,
world.
I am so on board with them just like wiping it. So World of Warcraft has codes and like old collectibles and stuff like that was limited. They had a card game. Some of them could have sold for $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. They decide Blizzard, and I guess Microsoft at some point decided to bring back those old rewards that people have had for 10, 12, 15 years and said, we're going to give this away again to everyone who wants it, essentially. And the price of those cards that were unobtainable, but you could pay someone $15,000 to get a card, suddenly overnight, everyone just lost their money. And I was just thinking, everyone who thought that they had some kind of system of wealth, that they could just hold this digital good for a video game that they don't own, and they thought, wow, I have $15,000 sitting in my hand, and that value got wiped out. I love that. Screw those guys. And I feel the same about this whole, CSGO, Counter-Strike 2 skin market. Wipe out all that value.
I truly despise those people too, by the way. But one thing you have to remember is that a lot of municipalities, a lot of states and everything, they actually tax the earnings on like commensurate what they call sin tax. So when it comes to casinos or alcohol or anything like, revenue from like local like lotteries,
lottery
they
systems,
actually they use that money to pay for their education in a lot of cases. So
ideally,
again, this is a gigantic oyster that we have yet to crack. So we can talk about it later when more information comes out, but it's not going anywhere. So
folks in Eastern Europe are just foaming at the mouth by me saying, that they should lose all the value in their CSGO skins, but it is what it is. So let's transition from that story and let's go ahead and get into some of these other topics that we have here. And the fact that the show, for those who aren't paying attention, it's been an hour, so stretch your legs, get some water. But hey, let's transition to some quicker stories, Nathan. We can talk about Apple and their discontinuing a product, and they have what seems to be, from what I've seen, a pretty big hit on their hands with a new MacBook, some new hardware, which is not something Apple does. They're used to, kind of killing hardware. But let's start with the killing of that hardware and then the hit. So first, Apple discontinues the Mac Pro. Very iconic piece of hardware, very powerful piece of hardware, but also dated. I think just the idea of this case, while it is, classic Apple, it does seem to not really jive with a lot of what Apple has been going for. You've seen some of their recent computers. They have the tiny little puck-sized computers that are very, very powerful. They have everything built into one screen.
Mac Mini.
Yeah. They have all these systems that are all integrated, built in, custom, and then you had the Mac Pro, which, according to the article, has not been updated since 2023, so no one should really be shocked here. But it was this piece of hardware that was big, bulky, separate, and that's not what Apple has been doing for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's also very expensive, by the way. It was like several $1,000s to start. It was very
it could go all the way up to like $50K or something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah. But it tapped out like with an M2 chip. It was never even like their bleeding edge chip, even at the time. It's so interesting because I don't really have a lot of thoughts on the Mac Pro, other than it looked like a cheese grater. Like you said, it was very iconic.
Yes.
But the problem is that it represented a different Apple that I think Apple is going for now. And I mentioned the MacBook Neo a little bit ago when we talked about PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was masterful of them. I didn't think it was innovative. I don't think that they should be we should applaud them for thinking outside the box. But if a company is going to remain profitable, if they're going to do something that, that is consumer friendly, then yes, that's exactly what they did. Like I talked about Nintendo a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
People forget when the Switch came out, the Switch wasn't some custom hardware that Nintendo designed. That was Nintendo being desperate because they were coming off a gigantic loss with the Wii U console. They did, one disaster could destroy Nintendo. They could become third party. That's all it would take. You know what I mean? So what they did is they went to NVIDIA, and NVIDIA let them basically recycle failed hardware. It was something called the NVIDIA Shield, which didn't sell very well for NVIDIA.
Yep.
Nintendo's like, let's take those off your hands and let's turn this into a Switch. And they did, and it worked, right? The MacBook Neo is related to the Mac Pro being cut off for the exact same reason. There's no way Apple's going to continue making an overpriced hardware that's reliant on components that they don't make. Apple makes a lot of their own components, which again, we'll get to the Neo. We look at this thing, it takes RAM, it takes a motherboard. It's basically a PC, like a chunky PC. And so Apple can't do that right now. I mean, a $5,000 computer would be $15,000. Can't do it. There's no market for it, especially when you have MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros that are awesome, like that are so powerful, or Mac Studios. Like I talked to you about the Mac Mini, like these are great computers. Like, these are really good. And you don't need this cheese grater machine that costs $50,000 to do what these computers can do. It's actually pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So
I think this goes into Apple obviously putting a lot of research into developing new hardware. And I know you said the transition away from Intel chips, but let's face it, Apple has done really amazing engineering when it comes to heat mitigation and heat dispersion, when it's come to design, when it comes to airflow, when it comes to all that stuff. And it led them to just like the cheese grater look is for maximum airflow, space, cooling, traditional PC crap. Apple really engineered their way away from that, and that's good. And I don't think they really lose all that much, which they don't think so either. They haven't, have not updated this in years, and they don't need this form factor anymore. Even if it is iconically Apple, it's not necessary anymore. And so there it goes.
Yeah. Well, again, all the arguments you just made, plus the arguments I made about the PlayStation, is that Apple did the time, they did the work. They said, how can we make this more efficient? How can we make this smaller? How can we make this cheaper? Sony has just been selling 7-year-old hardware, and that means that if you're in an assembly line, you're going to have to keep making the old hardware way past it. So, that's like retrofitting your house with like, I don't know, like, it's, those stories about the government where they're always like having to update Windows 3 because they refuse to update the operating system. Like, if you're AMD,
it's like cable companies still having to put out, dial-up, and you're like, oh, dial-up, we're way past that. It's like, not everyone.
Yeah, it's like a car rolling into the gas station, and it's not like equipped for modern fuel usage because it's from 19.
The carburetor,
it's more expensive it's prohibitive to keep it, and so. With Apple, yes, they're getting rid of an expensive, old-fashioned thing, but let's go back to the Neo for a second. The Neo is an iPhone chip. It's a chip designed for the iPhone. It's the A18, which is basically the same chip that was, I think, in the iPhone 16 or something. Was it the 16?
Yeah.
16 Pro. And so they already had these chips available. It was already engineered to be cost-efficient. So whereas the entire industry is going towards more expensive RAM, more expensive this, more expensive that, Apple's like... They're laughing. Like, guess what we got? We got this. And I played with it. I don't usually review tech, right? So I kind of took the reins on this one. So this is a rare instance when you're reading what I wrote. But I used it for a week or so. And I got to tell you, I'm not a Mac person. But if I was, this would be my Mac. Like, the only thing I don't like about it is that there's no backlit keyboard. But this thing, you will not find a better Windows machine for this price. You won't. You just can't do it. It's not going to be as good. The screen's going to be crappy. The keyboard's going to be terrible. The build's going to be flexy bendy. The processor's going to overheat. Like, this is a Mac. Like, if you used any new MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, that's what this feels like. That's what this feels like in usage. Now, it's got limits. Like, you can't do a billion things. But you could do a lot with this thing. Like, I was getting Blender to run. I was doing Blender renders on this. Nice. I was doing like I was doing 4K images. Like, it does it all. You just have to be conscientious about how you're doing it. But again, Ben, I'll tell you this. I saw this thing at Walmart the other day because I know Apple was selling older MacBook ones. The M1 Airs at Walmart for $600. These things are there now. And I'll tell you, if you look at it, it's the citrus one. It's the yellow one.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's colorful. And if you're buying a $600 laptop, the color of the laptop is probably more important to you than how much RAM it has. Because that's just how it goes.
How cute is it? It is an accessory. And yeah,
it's cute. It's adorable. But it's a really good laptop. It's really good. Is it super powerful? Kind of, for a lot of things. But what it represents, though, it represents a more dynamic way of thinking that the industry must lead forward. And because you simply cannot say, I'm going to continue selling my old stuff, and you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to get a second job. You hear CEOs say this sometimes. You actually hear them say it like, oh, if you want it, you'll
buy
work
less
harder.
Starbucks, less avocado toast, drive less, and you can afford everything that we're selling you. Yeah.
And what Apple did to nip-tuck this down was brilliant. Like, they actually did some really strategic cuts in this. And I thought this was actually pretty brilliant of them. Yeah, it uses an iPhone processor, but the iPhone processor is pretty good, right? Does the job. But like the USB ports are very bad. Like it's USB 2. You heard me right. USB 2 and USB 3. Not 3.1, not 3.2, just 3. So they're not very powerful. Again, no backlit keyboard. But the screen is nice.
Yeah, it's something that I think the mid-range PC makers have always kind of enjoyed, is that, hey, at least we don't have to compete with Apple. We only have to compete with, Lenovo this. We have to compete with HP that. We have to compete whatever it is. But if Apple starts coming for the mid-range, not even like the budget-friendly, but the mid-range, then makers are going to have to step up their game because,
I will
build quality is Apple's thing.
This is not designed for current Mac people. It's not designed for them. This is designed for people who are coming from Windows. And this thing is going to be, I will tell you right, I will predict this for you. I put this down in the notes. This might become the best-selling laptop of all time.
Impressive.
I'm almost sure it will be. Like, it's just too good of a value proposition. It's too good. And Apple doesn't lose a penny on this.
You think it'll unseat like a Chromebook?
Oh yeah, because the problem about Chromebooks, right, is that Chromebooks were lies. Chromebooks were sold, oh, we got this Chromebook, it's going to be really good. You don't need to worry about power, schools. But it wasn't any of those things. And the only reason Chromebooks sold well during the pandemic is because schools had contracts with Google. And then you find out that, I don't know if people realize this, but there was all these controversies where students' records were being uploaded to Google because it was all through Google. They were getting advertisements in their schoolwork. And it just didn't work out for them. And then as we went away back from distance learning, people bought laptops again. They started buying computers again. They don't want the Chromebook. And by the way, I saw this thing, I saw the Neo compared to Chromebook. That is foolish. This is a computer. The Chromebook is not a real computer. It's a nice browser-based machine. It's got its place. But this is a computer. This downloads apps. This is an operating system. This is a fully functioning thing. And I'm not trying to sell you on it, but I am trying to sell you on the rationale about why it was made and why I think it's important. Because we have a $600 fully functional MacBook that has never happened before. Not even in the wildest days did I ever think you'd see a $600 MacBook that's this good. Meanwhile, PlayStation 5, which is 6 years old, is selling for $900. Like there's something wrong with that mentality. That is, things don't have to be expensive because Sony can't get off their ass and manufacture a cheaper PlayStation. They just don't want to, but they could if they wanted to. If Apple can do it, Sony could do it. If Nintendo can do it, other companies can do it.
Right.
And so don't feel, and don't blame tariffs, don't blame everything. Sometimes just blame a company for being crappy.
Yeah.
Just blame it for being crappy.
And that's where
spend your money.
Yeah, spend your money where it counts, and they'll learn their lesson.
Don't settle.
When
don't settle.
Yeah. So
and by the way, and I hate to say, I was going to say, but and the same thing for Netflix. It's like Netflix keeps raising their price, but they do offer a better service. But you don't have to pay it. Find something else.
Sure.
Yeah.
There are other options out there. So, Nathan, a lot of the other stories that I had picked out before. So just to give everyone and we'll include it in the show notes just so they can go out and find it themselves. We're already like, probably past where I thought we'd be at by now, which is good. Fun conversation is flying by, Nathan. This is good stuff. I will say though, everything you need to know about the foreign made router ban in the US, that's one article we're not going to get to. Safe to say that any future router that is produced outside of America, which, spoiler alert, pretty much all of them have to get approval from the FCC.
They did the same thing with drones, by the way, remember?
Yeah.
So,
and then they took on DJI, and then everyone's like, well, if we can't have DJI, we have nothing because they're the ones that make good drones. So there you go. There was that article. There was an article that we were going to lead into a much larger conversation about social media and kids and youth. The UK is pushing a social media ban. Australia is pushing their 14 and under social media ban. We have the lawsuits where Facebook Meta and I forget the other company that was someone else. Lost their lawsuit due to kids being harmed by the product. We saw Snapchat also having some child endangerment issues. Nathan, that was going to be a much bigger conversation, which I would love to.
That's not going anywhere, though. That's not going. We can revisit that.
That's not going away. That's going to continue. But I will just say that, Nathan, in the future, we should have a much larger conversation about social media in kids. At least it seems to be the impacts of kids and social media has always been there, but it's never really stuck because it's a service. The people, they use it how they want. We're doing our best to safeguard and guardrails, but though that seems to be shifting, it definitely seems like.
There's a very, 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 very good reason for that. And it is so crass and dishonest the way it's been presented that we could talk about that for 10 shows and not even scratch the surface. But if you want to have that conversation, you let me know and I'll gladly contribute to that.
Soon, I think we have a special show where we'll just talk about that and social media, kids, and all that stuff. Because that is something that will be coming up more and more. I think as with one lawsuit, as soon as you lose that, other groups of people will sue. Other companies will get sued by other groups of people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So there you go.
That's how lawsuits work. By the way.
As soon as you see that opening, like Nathan just said, a floodgate will open. So there's that article that we're not going to be able to get to. Spotify still seeking to get Anna's archive. Which if you have not heard about Anna's archive, good luck.
Can I tell you something about Anna's? Look, I'll tell you something. I'm just saying this because I kind of agree a little what they do. They are so brazen. They put their new domains on their Wikipedia page. So if you go to Anna's Archive Wiki, they will tell you where their new URL is on their wiki page. They're not trying to hide it. They're right on the open.
They are as brazen as the Pirate Bay used to be.
Yeah. Oh, way more. Yeah. So crazy.
So there you go. And again, these are all articles that we'll have in the show notes. But if you want to dig more into those, we're not going
to. What about the erotic chats?
Yes, that was the last one I was going to tease. Was that and tease is maybe too on the nose for this article, but OpenAI, and they're making some cuts. Which Nathan, I was also going to bring in the fact that Sora? Is getting discontinued, which was the video generation by ChatGPT. ChatGPT and OpenAI that runs the whole thing. They are also
Disney pulled out of it too. You saw that.
Yes, Disney and Sora, the $1 billion partnership they had fell through because they're pulling Sora. But now OpenAI is also cutting plans for its erotic ChatGPT because apparently you dirty birdies out there, as soon as you see something that has any modicum of intelligence, you immediately go, so what are you wearing? And that is something that ChatGPT was going to monetize, but no longer.
You don't want to hear this, right? People don't want to hear this, but OpenAI basically is the MySpace of AI. Overwhelming, super dominant, but ready to be replaced with something else. Let's just say that. It's all the signs are there. So sorry, Sam.
Yeah. Sam Altman has made a lot of bold decisions when it comes to this. Although, everyone out there, if you're heartbroken over this, touch grass. That's a good one. So
there's other sex bots for you to date.
Absolutely. So they're all out there. Go find them, folks. So with all that being said, we're going to wrap it up, though, with our last article, quote unquote, or topic of conversation. And Nathan teased it way at the beginning, where you have the new poster. If you want nothing else to do with spoilers, which for a kids movie, y'all are going to be okay. But we can talk about the new Super Mario Brothers movie poster. And honestly, it seems really cool, and the implications are cool too.
I don't necessarily think it's just the poster. I think what Nintendo did, you're talking about the Fox McCloud reveal.
Yes.
Star Fox. A non-Mario character in a Mario movie. For those who don't know, what was I going to say? Fox McCloud, is the star of Star Fox, another major Nintendo franchise that hasn't received as much love as it probably should have, but it's their flying franchise. It's their spaceship franchise. It's their Star Wars franchise.
I think of a generation, it was very popular. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's come back a few times. It came back, Ubisoft did a little R-Wing version of their game on the Wii and the Wii U a couple of years ago. Pretty cool.
I'm sorry, for the N64, it was like the game. GoldenEye and Star Fox. Yeah.
Star Fox 64 is my favorite Nintendo 64 and one of my favorite games of all time. It's perfection. I love that game. After this came out, actually right before we started chatting, a leak came out, and apparently Nintendo's about to have a huge show where they're going to show, like they're basically doing it. They're pulling a Disney where they're going to show their plan, and apparently a Star Fox game is in the works, a new one, or a TV show or movie. There's going to be remasters of other stuff, but that's irrelevant. What this really means, though, is we talked about the NCU, the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. We've always said, you and I have said that gaming is now the new thing for Hollywood to plunder and strip mine. And the Mario movie is coming out next week. The first one, gigantic, huge, just world shattering. I don't know how big the second one's going to be, but it's going to be big. And next year there's a Zelda movie coming out. So you may even see a trailer for Zelda soon, maybe even for Mario.
Yeah, that's the live action Zelda, right? Yeah,
but remember that one of Nintendo's biggest franchises is called Super Mario Smash Brothers, which did the whole MCU thing years before Marvel did it. They basically take different Nintendo franchises and stick them in a box and let them fight. And it's insanely successful. It's hugely popular. One of the biggest games of all time.
It's even more fun than that because there's the whole Smash Brothers thing, but then they didn't just keep it to Nintendo. They have other characters from other series that were completely unrelated, but it was fun seeing them in Smash as well. It opens the door to a lot of new movies being produced and tied in.
It's so interesting because you'd have characters from non-Nintendo games like Solid Snake or Pac-Man or whatever. But when they entered Smash Brothers,
characters as well, stuff
Street Fighter, you name it. But the incarnations that would be in Smash Brothers would be the best they've ever been, and it would include their music, their backgrounds. It would integrate. It was a love letter. Like I'm not the biggest Smash Brothers fan, but I know people who are, and it is the most video gamey of all franchises. Besides maybe it did Fortnite before Fortnite did Fortnite, but Nintendo is interesting because Nintendo is out for blood. They are sensing a moment and they are becoming a Disney. And a lot of people know this. They are mimicking everything Walt did back in the 60s. They are super protective of their franchises. If you touch their character, they will sue you into oblivion. They've only made one movie in recent times and it was a huge hit. The quality control seems to be there. They're making theme parks. They're expanding out. If you go to Walmart right now, Ben, everything is Mario up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Mario, everything.
Who knew the cure for? Yeah, who knew the cure for superhero fatigue was just a different cast of superheroes? Well, which
I will say this though. Here's my final thoughts. I haven't seen the movie. We're going to go see it next Thursday, but I will say this though. If you were to create a character, according to the algorithm, say, let me make a video game character that relates to, okay, who's most people play games? Kids. Let's make a character that approaches to kids. Let's make a character that kids like, that adults like. You would never, no open AI in the world would ever come up with a middle-aged plumber, right? Wouldn't happen. Would not happen. But for some reason, Mario has become so embraced as the definitive representative of video games, the way Mickey Mouse was the definitive of animation. And he's more popular now than ever before. And there is something.
Yeah. To even me, even 5-10 years ago, I would have said Pikachu. Pikachu was it. Mario is kind of this older character, has his place. But yeah, no, they've really latched on to they have proven me wrong. They have latched on to what works for sure.
Can I shock you for a second?
Mm-hmm.
You just said 5. How long ago did you say? 5 years ago?
5 or 10 years ago. Like whenever they start coming out with the Pokemon, Detective Pikachu movie and stuff like that, I would say Pikachu.
Yeah. Pikachu is the best-selling franchise. Well, Pokemon's the best-selling, but Nintendo owns that too, yes. Right? But no, the Mario thing itself is the most overall overreaching, the most successful media franchise in the world. It dwarfs Marvel, it dwarfs everything. And Nintendo owns it, and they're going to start using it in a way that they haven't used before. And hopefully it can retain some of that magic because it has remained relatively clean from the rest of the world. You don't see this discordance like you do with Marvel or Batman or anything like this. You see there is I'm going to make you laugh. There is a sealed quality to it a little bit where Nintendo's very protective. But I don't know if that'll last. I don't know if that'll last, but I will say
I'm excited though.
There is a feeling of excitement over these Nintendo movies that has been absent from movies in a long time, like because it is fresh. And I think there is a feeling like when you see Zelda show up, it's going to be an event. It's going to be a big thing, especially if the movie's good. So let's enjoy it before they destroy it and run into the ground, which they will. But the other announcement is the actor playing Fox is Glenn Powell from Top Gun. So
neat.
Kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
And Donald Glover is playing Yoshi. Childish Gambino.
You got to be struggling, and sometimes you got to take the role of the dinosaur. It's just how it goes. So,
no, open the door, get on the floor. Everybody do the dinosaur. So
there you go.
But
words of wisdom.
Also, did you see the? Before I go, did you see the trailer for the Mario thing? Did you see the trailer where they showed Yoshi and he's interacting with that big T-Rex?
I saw a trailer, and at the very end of the trailer, it kind of trailed off, and it was like, Yoshi being the big reveal. So I've not seen all the trailers. I've seen a trailer. Okay. So, yeah.
You guys going to go see it?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I didn't even know. So I just Googled, when does Super Mario Galaxy come out? And Google just told me it's coming out November 12th, 2007. So I don't think it picked up on the right thing. It's coming out next week. So yes, I think we will go see that.
Do you have small children under the age of 10 in your orbit?
In my orbit, no. In another state, we would, but no.
Yeah, exactly. If you had them in your orbit, you would know exactly when it comes out. That's who this works on. It's like the Minecraft movie last year. They know. Chicken Jockey. They know. They will tell you about it. They will drop hints about Mario coming out because this is the same company that made the Minions. Remember from Despicable Me? It's the same company, and they're going to do that damn thing with Yoshi. They're going to be Yoshi. That's how it's going to be. So. Gonna hate it.
Hey, it's how we were as kids, so they deserve the same thing as well. So there you go. And Nathan, we're gonna wrap it up there. This was, again, time flew by. Everyone out there, thank you for, of course, sticking with us through the conversation. If you want to find any of these stories and be like, no way, PlayStation is actually increasing the price of their console, computeramerica.com will have the show notes and links to everything that we just said, as far as proving that, hey, we're not just making this stuff up. So Nathan, I want to thank you so much for coming on and joining, and again, for the time skip out there for everyone. There will not be another time skip like that. So Nathan joins us typically last Friday every month. And Nathan, thank you so much for joining us once again.
You're welcome. Everybody have a good weekend. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Do something fun. Get ready for the new movie coming out next week. And ladies and gentlemen, computeramerica.com one more time, calcopia.com one last time. And everyone out there, catch you next time. Until then, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.